Imagine for a second that you are holding this centuries-old spiritual roadmap.
Okay.
And this isn't just a collection of vague, philosophical suggestions that you can just interpret however you want.
Right, right.
This roadmap actually promises to reveal the exact, explicit signs you're going to encounter on the path to meeting the divine.
Which is a pretty bold claim.
Very bold. It operates almost like a psychological diagnostic tool.
Mm-hmm.
It points out the very specific traps of the human mind and exactly how to bypass them.
Yeah, and I mean, we spend so much of our time looking for that practical how-to guide, right?
Constantly.
Most of us find ourselves in this state of searching, just feeling this baseline level of confusion or dissatisfaction with the modern world.
Yeah, that underlying hum of anxiety.
Exactly. We want step-by-step instructions to move from all that noise into a place of clarity and presence. And historical texts that actually attempt to map that journey out are, well, they're incredibly rare to find in such a condensed form.
And that is our entire mission for this deep dive.
Yeah.
The source material today is a really specific excerpt from a sacred text known as Signs on the Path to Meet God.
It's beautiful.
It really is. It was written by the 16th century spiritual leader Guru Arjan Dev Ji, and you can find it in a section of scripture called Rag Soohee, specifically on page 737.
Right.
And our goal today is to unpack the actual mechanics of this text, because beneath the 16th century poetry, it is an absolute masterclass in psychology.
Oh, without a doubt.
We're going to explore the mechanics of the human ego, the biological trap of societal pressure, and what it practically requires to achieve total presence.
And we should say the text is conceptually very dense. Every single line serves a specific structural purpose.
Yeah, it doesn't waste any time.
It doesn't. It establishes the baseline requirement right away by introducing this central metaphor, which is the soul bride.
The soul bride.
Yes. In the original language, the phrase is dhan sohaagan. The text just declares, blessed is that soul bride who realizes God.
So what does that actually mean for the listener?
Well, in the context of this tradition, the human soul is depicted in a posture of receptivity, metaphorically as a bride, while the divine is the beloved.
Okay, right.
And we need to be clear, this isn't a commentary on literal gender.
Right, it's not about that at all.
Exactly. It's a commentary on the fundamental posture that the human mind has to adopt to actually perceive reality accurately.
Which means what, exactly?
It means it requires a state of ultimate devotion and receptivity rather than, forceful imposition.
That is so interesting because it immediately frames the relationship not as some transactional arrangement with the universe.
Right, like a vending machine.
Yeah, exactly. Put in a coin, get a blessing. It frames it as something deeply intimate instead.
Yeah.
But I think understanding that posture of receptivity can be really difficult for us today.
Oh, absolutely. It goes against everything we're taught.
Right. If I think about the mechanics of how we operate in the world, we are usually taught to exert our will. If you want something, you go out and conquer it.
You make it happen.
You force the universe to bend to your desires. But this soul bride concept seems to be demanding the exact opposite mechanical approach.
It really does.
It actually makes me think of sailing.
Oh, okay. Let's hear it.
Like, if you are out on the ocean, you have absolutely zero control over the wind.
None.
The wind just represents the raw forces of reality. Now, if you rigidly lock your sails into the position that you decided is best, regardless of what the wind is actually doing,
You're going to have a bad time.
right, your boat is either going to stall out entirely or it's going to capsize.
Yeah.
The only way to harness that massive power, to actually move and find delight in the journey, is to become, exquisitely receptive to the wind. You have to adjust your own structure to align with it.
That sailing analogy actually captures the physics of what the author introduces next perfectly.
Oh, awesome.
Because the text explicitly outlines how this soul bride operates. It says, she obeys the Hukam of His Order and abandons her self-conceit.
Okay. Hukam and self-conceit.
Right. The word used for self-conceit is abhimaanai.
Abhimaanai.
Yeah, and it is that rigid sail you just described. It is that ingrained, incredibly stubborn biological sense of, I know best, and I am in control.
The universe should operate according to my preferences.
Exactly.
Mm.
The text insists that this ego has to be entirely abandoned, and it has to be traded for hukam.
Hukam being the wind in the analogy.
Basically, yeah. Hukam translates roughly to the divine order or the ultimate will of God. It's the underlying natural rhythm and physics of existence.
So it's just the reality of how things are.
Yes. You cannot negotiate with it, and you certainly do not create it. Your only functional option is to align your vessel with it.
Wow. Okay. So if we look at the psychological mechanism at play here, the ego is essentially just a defense mechanism.
100%.
We hold on to our abhimaanai, our self-conceit, because we operate under the assumption that our ego keeps us safe.
Right. We think we need it.
The internal narrative is always, if I don't relentlessly assert my will, if I don't control my environment, I'm going to become a victim of circumstance and I will suffer.
We think the rigid sail is what protects us from the storm.
Yes, exactly.
But the author completely inverts that logic here. The text argues that the ego is not your protector. It's actually the source of all your friction.
Oh, wow.
Just look at the stated result of dropping that self-conceit. The text says that once a person aligns with the hukam, quote, imbued with her beloved, she celebrates in delight.
Celebrates in delight. That's a strong phrase.
It is. The surrender of the ego is not framed as some solemn, miserable sacrifice where you just lose your identity and suffer in silence.
Like a martyr?
Right, not at all. Dropping the illusion of control is the exact mechanism that generates delight.
Because you stop fighting the wind.
Exactly. The friction disappears because you are no longer fighting the underlying current of reality.
So for you, listening to this, that is your primary internal checkpoint.
Yeah.
Before this text even approaches the topic of outward behavior or rituals or community, before any external signs of spiritual progress are even mentioned, the admission ticket is entirely internal.
You have to lower the sail.
You have to lower the sail of your own arrogance. But, I mean, knowing that the internal barrier is our obsession with control, that brings up a really natural tension regarding the external world.
How so?
Well, because even if I manage to drop my ego in a quiet room by myself, I still have to walk out the front door and, interact with society.
Very true.
How does a 16th century writer address the external friction of just living among other people?
Well, that leads us directly into the refrain of the text, which is known as the raho.
The raho.
Right. In this musical and poetic tradition, the refrain acts as the anchor point. It contains the central instruction of the whole piece.
Okay.
The author states, "Listen, O my companions, these are the signs on the path to meet God." And the instruction is aggressively direct.
Let's hear it.
Dedicate your mind and body to Him. Stop living to please others.
Stop living to please others.
Yeah.
I actually want to push back on the simplicity of that command for a second.
Oh, go ahead.
Because it really contradicts almost everything we understand about human sociology and, honestly, the historical function of religion itself.
That's a fair point.
Historically, religious and spiritual structures are kind of the ultimate engines of community conformity, right?
True, yes.
They dictate the rules of the tribe, they tell you how to dress, what vocabulary to use, the moral codes you have to publicly endorse, and it's all specifically so you can maintain your standing within the group.
To fit in.
Exactly. To have a sacred text explicitly command the practitioner to stop living to please others sounds almost anti-establishment.
It does, doesn't it?
It feels like it asks the reader to just abandon the very social fabric that usually holds a congregation together.
You're right, and that tension is entirely intentional.
Really?
Yes. The author is demanding that the practitioner dismantle a core biological imperative. The original phrasing is tajai lakani, which means literally forsaking the shame or the opinions of the world.
Forsaking the shame of the world.
Right. And to understand why this is so difficult, we have to look at the evolutionary psychology of people-pleasing.
Okay.
Human beings are deeply wired to care about the tribe's approval. Thousands of years ago, if the collective tribe decided they didn't like you, you were cast out of the group.
Which meant you died.
Exactly. It meant certain death in the wilderness. So we developed this highly sensitive nervous system where social rejection triggers the exact same pain receptors in the brain as physical injury.
Which is wild when you think about it.
It is. We are literally biologically addicted to social validation for survival.
So we spend our lives just endlessly monitoring our social environment, constantly tweaking our behavior to ensure we are, accumulating approval.
Yeah, keeping score.
We are essentially crowdsourcing our identity. But the text is arguing that this survival mechanism is actually a fatal spiritual roadblock.
It is, because if your primary motivation is avoiding the shame of the world, your moral compass is entirely externalized.
Oh, that's a great point.
You are serving 1,000 different shifting masters, the culture, your neighbors, social media algorithms, and none of them actually know the path to ultimate truth.
They're all just guessing, too.
Exactly. You cannot align with the eternal hukam if you are constantly spinning around trying to align with the temporary opinions of society.
That makes total sense on an individual level, but it creates a massive practical problem.
How so?
Well, does the text expect the seeker to just abandon humanity? Like, does stopping living to please others mean becoming a total sociopath or just retreating to a cave and isolating yourself completely?
No, and the text actually anticipates that exact objection.
Oh, it does.
Yeah, it resolves the paradox not by destroying community, but by completely reorienting its foundation. In the subsequent stanza, it says, "One soul bride counsels another to do only that which pleases God."
Ah, okay. So there's still a peer group. The text specifically mentions counsels another.
Yes, the original phrasing is sakhe'ee, sakhe'ee, kao samahavai. It describes a community of seekers. But the mechanics of this community are entirely different from a normal tribe.
How are they different?
Well, instead of an echo chamber where members perform for each other to climb some social hierarchy, this is a peer group whose singular shared goal is to help each other dismantle the ego.
Wow.
They counsel one another to seek only divine alignment. They aggressively strip away the need for societal approval. They are holding each other accountable to the signal, not to their social standing.
It's almost like the difference between a group of people applying makeup together before going out to impress a crowd
Yeah.
versus a group of people helping each other wash the mud off their faces so they can actually see clearly.
I love that visual. That's exactly it.
The community becomes a tool for clarity rather than a trap of conformity. And according to the text, when you achieve that true alignment,
Such a soul bride merges into the being of God. Total integration.
total integration.
Yeah.
But, I mean, a map is only useful if it also points out the cliffs and the dead ends, right?
Absolutely. And the author pivots sharply right here.
Yeah.
Having established the necessity of dropping the ego and bypassing that biological trap of peer pressure, the text delivers a really severe warning about the mechanics of failing to do so.
Which is vital, because overriding our own biology and ego is incredibly difficult,
It's arguably the hardest thing a person can do.
especially today. We live in an era where the architecture of our daily lives, like social media metrics, professional networking, public reputation, it is entirely built on tracking how much we are pleasing others.
We're heavily incentivized to hold on to our pride.
Exactly. So what's the warning?
To illustrate the danger of that path, the text introduces a character foil to the soul bride. This character is known as the manmuk.
Manmuk?
Yes. If the soul bride represents the ideal state of surrendered receptivity, the manmuk is the tragedy of the opposite approach. It literally translates to the self-willed person.
Self-willed person.
Yeah. This is an individual whose face is perpetually turned inward, looking only at their own mind and their own desires.
So they're completely trapped in that ego.
Right. And the text issues a very stark warning. It says, "One who is in the grip of pride does not obtain the mansion of the Lord's presence."
The grip of pride.
The word used there is garab, which denotes this arrogant, blinding pride.
You know, the mechanics of how that blinding pride actually works makes me think of a very specific visual.
Let's hear it.
Imagine you are standing in a small room at night.
Okay.
One of the walls is a massive floor-to-ceiling glass window.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been told that just outside this window is the most breathtaking, majestic mountain landscape imaginable.
Right.
But inside the room, you have turned the lights up to maximum brightness. Because it is dark outside and blazing bright inside. The physics of the glass change. The window just ceases to be transparent. It acts as a perfect mirror.
Right. The glare of the light inside the room prevents you from seeing anything beyond the glass.
Exactly. Because the light is so intense, all you can see is your own reflection.
Yeah.
You can stand there for decades, fixing your hair, admiring your posture, obsessing over every tiny flaw in your reflection, entirely convinced that you are interacting with reality.
But you're just staring at yourself.
You are completely missing the massive, awe-inspiring landscape that exists just an inch on the other side of the glass. The glaring light inside the room is your ego.
Whoa.
And the frantic adjustments you make to your reflection, those are your attempts to please society and maintain your pride.
That's a perfect analogy.
As long as that light of self-obsession is blazing, the window will always be a mirror, and you will never see the mansion. You lock yourself out, not because the door is locked, but because you are blind to it.
That mechanical explanation flawlessly parallels the poetic warning the author uses next.
Oh, really?
Yes. The text deliberately uses the imagery of nighttime to describe the tragedy of this self-willed person. It says, "She regrets and repents when her life night passes away."
When her life night passes away. The terminology there is profound.
Isn't it?
Calling human existence a life night implies that our current state of being is akin to a temporary period of obscured vision.
We're in the dark.
We are operating in the dark, perhaps even in a dream state, just taking the illusions of the dream far too seriously.
And it acts as a ticking clock on the human condition. The author is pointing out the ultimate, unavoidable consequence of living as a menmuk.
The self-willed person?
Right. If you spend your entire existence fueled by ego, frantically trying to polish your own reflection and harvest the approval of the tribe, you are essentially sleepwalking.
Wow.
And when that life night inevitably concludes, when mortality forces the dawn, the illusion shatters. The text argues that this realization leads to profound pain and regret.
Because you realize what you missed.
Exactly. You reach the end of the timeline and realize you spent your entire allocation of existence staring at your own artificial reflection, while completely ignoring the ultimate reality of the divine.
It is the terrifying realization of a wasted opportunity.
Yeah.
You survived the social game, you protected your pride, but you missed the entire point of the journey.
You missed the landscape.
The urgency here is palpable. If the clock is ticking, and the consequence of failure is this ultimate cosmic regret, it forces a massive tactical question.
Which is?
If we manage to turn off the blazing light of the ego, and we stop staring at our own reflection, where are we actually supposed to look?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. We are constantly told to seek the divine, but human beings naturally treat problems geographically.
What do you mean by geographically?
Like, if I want water, I walk to the river. If I want knowledge, I go to the library. So if I'm trying to reach this ultimate spiritual reality, what direction do I travel? Do I go to a mountaintop?
This is where the text executes a brilliant psychological pivot. It addresses that exact geographical instinct.
Okay, how so?
The final stanza begins with a remarkably vulnerable admission from the author. It really articulates the default assumption of the human mind. The text says, "I pray to God, but I think that he is far away."
Oh, wow. That is the core cognitive error we all make.
Yes.
We spatialize everything. We assume that because we feel disconnected from the divine must be physically or dimensionally distant.
Right, like God is up in the clouds somewhere.
We place God at the top of a grueling mountain or deep in the heavens or at the end of a 10-year silent pilgrimage. We build this immense illusion of distance, assuming that salvation is a destination we have to literally hike toward.
We project our own feelings of isolation onto the fabric of reality itself. But the text instantly dismantles this misconception.
How does it correct it?
The very next line reveals the true physics of the situation. It says, God is imperishable and eternal. He is pervading and permeating everywhere.
Permeating everywhere.
Yes. And the original vocabulary is crucial here. The words used are prabh, abhinasi, raleeaa, bharapur.
Pure.
It means utterly full, overflowing, saturated. It describes a presence that permeates every single particle of existence, much like water permeates every fiber of a submerged sponge.
It completely annihilates the concept of a geographical journey then.
Exactly.
You cannot travel towards something that already constitutes the space you are moving through.
The conclusion of the text ties the entire roadmap together with this realization. It reads, Servant Nanak thinks of him. I see him ever present everywhere.
Ever present everywhere.
The operative phrase there is Dek had we're seeing him face to face in the immediate, undeniable vicinity.
This brings the entire architecture of the poem into such sharp focus.
It really does.
Let's just look at the actual mechanics of the journey we just traced. It starts by demanding we adopt the posture of the soul bride, dropping our rigid self-conceit so we can align with the hukam. Right?
Yeah.
That natural rhythm of reality.
Step one.
Then it requires us to override our biological drive for social approval, abandoning the exhausting performance of people-pleasing.
Step two.
It warns us that if we fail to do this, our pride will act like a blinding light, turning the window of perception into a mirror of self-obsession, which leads to ultimate regret as our life night expires.
And the ultimate revelation is that the purpose of all this rigorous internal work is not to earn a travel visa to a distant spiritual realm.
Right.
The obstacle was never distance. The obstacle was always the interference generated by the ego.
So the reward for turning off that blazing light of self-obsession inside the room isn't that you get to travel to the majestic mountain outside.
No.
The reward is simply that the glass stops being a mirror. You finally see through it.
Yeah.
You realize the breathtaking landscape has been pressing up against the glass the entire time. You drop the ego not to go somewhere new, but to perceive what is already saturated into the room with you.
That's beautifully said. When the interference of the ego is removed, the omnipresence of the divine, that Barapur reality, it just becomes the obvious, undeniable baseline of existence.
So as we close this deep dive, I want to leave you with a final thought to apply to your own life today. If the ultimate conclusion of the 16th century psychological roadmap is that the divine reality is not millions of miles away, but is actually Barapur permeating and overflowing within every single particle of your current environment, how does that alter your approach to the incredibly mundane moments you will face in the next 24 hours?
That's a great question.
Think about the friction of your morning commute, the anxiety of an awkward conversation with a coworker, or just the quiet, seemingly meaningless task of washing the dishes. Are you still straining your neck, looking out at the horizon, exhausting yourself, trying to reach some grand, distant spiritual arrival, while completely ignoring the profound reality that is already sitting right next to you?